A, A1, call to order. B, study session. B1, resolution. So in this portion of the agenda, we're going to discuss the resolutions that are kind of being presented towards us. I know we have the one from 2017. We have a reaffirmation resolution that was returned from our legal team. And then there's also a standalone resolution provided by Mr. Conchas. So at this time, I think we can start with the first one, the 2017 resolution, and we can discuss any thoughts around that, or maybe if this would be a good time for Dana or the district to add anything that they feel. Oh, she's moving to, oh. You can.
Yep, make sure your microphone's on and.
Now that I moved over so I could be by a microphone. So we're talking about the original one, right? The 27th
Yes,
one.
yes.
So I tried to compare all three of them. First, I'm going to say that obviously there was a consortium that went together and came up with the new one, because I looked up a couple of them in the other districts, and they're pretty much basically the same as what we have, which I think is got some merit to it, because then we're all in it together, if that makes any sense. I looked at the original one, and for the most part, everything that is in the original one is also in the, not Mr. Conchas's one, the other one. It's just some of the wording is abbreviated, which I think in my past experience, it's a good idea to simplify the language, because then there are not so many opportunities to read between the lines and come up with misconceptions. So the fact that some of it was condensed, I thought was a positive. It also makes it so it's not 2 full pages. The things that I found that I thought I looked for that weren't there were, on the original one, there's one that says, the district within 30 days of the date of this resolution will create a rapid response team to prepare in the event a minor child attending school is deprived of adult care. And that is something that I think is important. I don't know that it necessarily needs to be spelled out in the document, as long as we have something in place to handle that situation. And that's based on incidents that I have been involved in the past, when kids got off the bus and their parents had been taken away and nobody was home. So I saw that was missing. And the other one that I saw was missing was, I have to read my notes on this again, because it's in the original one, it's resolved that we will continue a commitment to the protection of student privacy, and will keep up with practices that ensure that no data is being collected with respect to the student's immigration status. And I don't know that that's not spelled out specifically in the other one, unless I missed it somewhere. There is reference to the FERPA, so maybe I need to go back and read that again. The other one that I thought was not there was, be it further resolved, the district shall post this resolution at every school site and distribute it to district staff, students, and parents using the usual means of communication. I didn't see that spelled out in the new one as explicitly as it was in this document. Everything else sort of seemed to match.
Okay, so just real quick, sounds like you commented on the rapid response plan, and I know that was something that I had brought up to Dana as well, in terms of that might be a thing we want to look at. I know there was in the board docs, there's the plan outline, or I guess it's just kind of like a um,
It's what we use, and it is one of the attachments in your board packet. Um, Mr. Rivera provided us with this, and is something that all of our schools have this, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement in schools. They all have that. Um, It's part of their emergency operations booklet that they have. And he goes over this very thoroughly with them, and he does multiple trainings throughout the year, not just on this, but on other things. One of the other things that you mentioned, I can tell you, is after having a conversation with Miss Siegel, some of the language that has been taken out of the original, the purpose of that was because a couple of those things you specifically mentioned actually live within our policies already. For instance, the sharing of information. Number one, we don't even ask that question. So we wouldn't be able to answer that at all if anybody asked us, but that's not something that we do. And it is certainly not something that we would entertain giving any kind of information like that to anybody. Anything that's requested, and I know that Mr. Gamino's here this evening. Most things, requests like that, they have to go through public requests, and we just don't do that. So
Don't keep that information.
we don't keep that information.
But to keep.
No, it is not.
But one thing I did appreciate about the new one is it actually references the Supreme Court case from 1982, and I think that's important that that be included in there.
Correct.
What
any other comments for? Oh, okay, sorry.
I like the fact that we reference in both of these that the parents and students have expressed multiple concerns. I think that gives us some credibility that we have been listening to our community and that we are acting on what they have talked about. Okay, now I'll be quiet.
You're totally fine. Mrs. Solorio, is there any comments that you want to add, particularly with the first one? And then you can also make comments regarding the second one. No? Okay. So I think the last thing you mentioned was distributing this language out there. Um, I think probably in 2017 it was when it came out, and it did live in the spaces that it should. So now whatever is going to be decided in the near future regarding these, then that document essentially will live out there in the public, the website, and the spaces that it needs to.
And in multiple languages. Yep.
Can you respond to that?
Yes.
Affirmative.
I specifically looked at the one from Phoenix Union, and it had 7 or 8 different languages that they were going to translate it to. And I know we have like almost 50 different languages. We can't do that, but we could do the 3 that are the major ones, English, Spanish, and whatever else. We could do the ones that are the most representative of students in our families.
Yes, we can certainly do that.
So without any decisions being made, I would say that I think if we were to consider the new resolution, I think the old one would go away. Is that correct? Or not go away, but like we wouldn't use the new one instead of the 2017?
Correct. You would use the reaffirmation, and it would be the one that our legal looked at, and that would be the recommendation, and that is the one that would live. It would live on the website. It would live in the school sites. It would be the document that lives within this district. That is correct.
And just to make clear, or at least clarify on my part, again, if we were to do the reaffirmation, then the 2017 would not be the one we would use. If we were to decide to do the standalone one, that would be, if we were to vote on it, that would be voted on a separate resolution, the one that Mr. Conchas offered as a suggestion.
Okay, so I guess clarification is this is the one that's being recommended, right?
Yes.
So when
Yes.
this will be what we'll vote on, unless somebody makes a motion that we change and look at this one.
And this one, the second one you're pointing is Mr. Conchas? Okay, yeah.
So if you all and your board president decide to bring this to the next board meeting for action, it would be what your choices are, the reaffirmation, for instance, the one that our legal team looked at. The one that Mr. Conchas brought for consideration, our legal considers that that would be an additional, a standalone. It would not become a part of this reaffirmation. Is that your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Mrs. Solorio, are there any comments that you'd like to add in regards to the first resolution in 2017 and the reaffirmation resolution that's been being proposed by the legal team and the district?
No. I just wanted to reaffirm Garth Ann's comments. I thought they were fitting and would support those suggestions.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Solorio. Any other comments on the resolution, Ms. De Ocampo? Okay. I think just hearing just some of the feedback and some of the suggestions, I think this helps with the direction that we can potentially go in. So I think we'll be able to move on to the next piece.
Mhm.
Perfect. B2, Board of Operations Manual. I know we discussed this at the retreat in terms of your first opportunity to view it. And so we were wondering too if there was any things that you thought about offering into it or anything that might be missing. Again, with the hope that this is a living document that we can all continue to gain insights from, whether you're a new board member or you're a seasoned board member, anything that would help us be clued into all the things that we need to.
Who's going to be in charge of updating this? Because some of the additional documents are going to need to change yearly. Some of them.
Mhm.
So who gets that job?
That would be, yes, in support from the board if they wanted to add things or delete things or
Okay.
whatever. It could be looked at, certainly yearly, but yes, some of the items that are currently in there are dated
Yeah.
items. So yes, they would have to change. So
Yeah.
sure, yes,
Okay, thank you for that answer.
you're welcome.
The school directory information was in there. I would suggest that we also include the district office directory information in there as well.
Okay.
I think I would find that helpful.
Thank you. Any other pieces you'd like to add or consider adding?
I think you've done a marvelous job on it. It's taken 8 years to come to this point. So I appreciate that it's finally here, because all of us have been new board members at some point in time and wondered, why is it that we do this? Or what's the proper procedure for this? So thank you for getting it all written down on paper for us to look at.
Thank you. Mrs. Solorio, is there anything that you felt is necessary to add or maybe you thought about later on?
No. I think this is good. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I just want to direct us to I think it's the last page. Maybe it's not. Yes, the last page. I think it's just helpful that all of us have this at hand anytime we're curious about a particular issue or a potential board policy. This is a good reference point. And it's also a good chance for us to see and perhaps transition into B3 AESD policies. But before we do, it just shows how many type of categories we're going to probably run through this year. And so we're probably going to talk about that in the next section, but we just did the A section. And so that took us probably a month and a half to do in terms of just, the schedule and voting and second reading. And so I know we're going to look into that in the next section. But before we do, is there any last comments about the board operation manual? Mine is that if we can just have a live copy here or live version here that we can all probably share. I think we all got one at the retreat, but like just the one that just kind of houses themselves here. That could just be helpful for reference point.
We can figure out how to, there's the program that we use has a library option, which you can drop documents into. So we can keep it there and I can do a little tutorial on how to get there and look at it. And and that might be an option. If not, I'll take a look at and see how we can do that.
Thank you. All right, moving to B3 AESD policies. So in this moment, we just wanted to share a little bit of insights on what is coming down the pipe when it comes to updated policies. Again, referring to the A policies, we did go through those updates. We had a first reading, second reading, and so B policies have dropped, and I believe C policies have dropped. So it's just starting to pile up, and maybe other districts don't keep up with this pace, but I think it's something that is beneficial for us. And so we will likely throughout this year be continuing to look at all the policies that are being given to us for updates. And so I wanted to bring that up, maybe get some insights from the district, as well as hear board member thoughts and comments around it.
I think part of the issue is that we have so much new legislation going on. So in past decades, we did not have that much change to policies. As where now it's happening more rapidly. There's constantly new bills, bills don't matter, new legislation that's being passed, and that's generating the need to change our policies. I see here we've got 42 coming up in the B policies. That's going to take more, if that's what that number stands for. Yeah. Can we divide those between 2 meetings maybe? That's a lot to read. I would say my personal preference would be if we could get them maybe on the Friday before the board meeting, so you have the weekend you have more time to look at them. And I also am always disappointed when we do the first and second reading at the same time. I think that's one of the checks and balances that we've always had, to have the first and the second. That gives you a chance to have some conversation and make any discussion about it before it comes to the final reading. So I personally would like to, as much as possible, have first for the policies.
And just to clarify, do you have any, thoughts around small updates versus kind of the larger, lengthier ones that we've been seeing? Like if it's just a tiny word, is there a difference of feelings on that?
So like, don't take all the B policies on one time, is that what you're saying?
Well, what I'm saying is like if in one of the B policies, just like one letter or one, change from one word to the other, do you feel like that you would still want to have that same goal in mind to do the first and
I
second?
think that's our responsibility, even if it's, sometimes those one-word changes make a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes they don't. But yes, I would still want to be able to have access to them. Would we be able to have them? It's hard to get the whole board agenda out because you have to collect it from, so I'm talking, I guess, Dana, I'm asking you this question. Is there a possibility that we could get the policy sent out ahead of the whole agenda so that we would have time to look at them before the whole agenda comes out?
I think we can do that. What ASBA does is they drop what they call policy advisories, which is what these are.
Mm-hmm.
And they send them out, and like this one has the 43 policies in it. But what you don't see in their policy advisories is what our current version is.
Right.
You would have to go into ASBA's website and you would have to search that yourself, or or that's where the length of time comes in. And like Mr. Navarez, President Navarez, it, oftentimes it's a Arizona revised statute that gets changed,
Mhm.
and we don't
have any choice.
we don't have a choice. You do have a choice. You could say, no, we're not going to change our policy, but that does not preclude our district from adhering to the law. And there isn't anything else that we can do about that. You could say no all day as a board, but push come to shove, the law is the law. And because we use ASBA as our guide, we're locked into that. And most districts in the state of Arizona do use ASBA, or a version of it. But what I typically do for all of you is, as you see, is the versions that you actually see in board docs are my taking our current and changing to the board, to the policy advisory. And that's why you see the strikeouts and the red underlines. If I send you the policy advisories, which I can do at that time, you won't have how that reflects in a change to us.
No.
So that's, and I'm not trying to get out of work, trust me, but the B policies at 43 are a small group. Once we get to G's and J's,
And say
those are in the hundreds. Yeah.
G's and J's are going to be, because those are the students and the staff.
Yep.
So
Hundreds.
going to be more.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have to do them as a whole group, or can we split? So I guess I'm not clear as to what you're asking. Are you saying if it's only a word change, we don't put it on the agenda and we don't vote for it?
No. You would have to vote on it. Not a first and second read. You would do first and adoption at the same time. Not for all of them, just, in order to speed things up. It's up to you all to make that decision.
We have to think about it.
Yeah.
Because certainly when we get to J's and G's, it's going to be even more. And we have to do them as the whole group at one time.
I'm just wondering if Mrs. Dale Campo feels that seriously, which I appreciate. I love how thorough you are with everything, whether it's policies or resolution or whatever it is. I really appreciate that. What's keeping us from slowing down? In other words, even if B's drop, C's drop, if we're still in the A's, and ensuring the board is taking their time reading them, like what are the risks that we're taking by doing it that way?
I don't know that there's really a risk in that regard, because like I said, whether you accept it, a policy that changes yes or no, or however you decide, it doesn't preclude the district from having to follow the law. The only thing I could see that would happen is that you would not have put it out in a public meeting that you objected to a policy or something like that. That would be the only thing that I could see. But
is there a timeline by which we have to make these?
Some do have timelines. The new ones that drop in between, like, I know I'm waiting right now because there's a bunch sitting on the governor's desk. Because we get updates weekly about things like that. When things drop in between their policy advisories, they'll send out another policy advisory. You'll see that next board meeting, we're going to have 2 different policies that are not B policies, and they're going to be sitting in there. So sometimes there is a deadline because they'll say that this takes effect on, and they'll tell you what the date is. I'm making it up, May the 1st. I'm just saying that. So sometimes there are things like that that take place.
I have to think about it. I believe there's a reason why we have first and second readings, and probably many people don't pay attention, but I wouldn't want the 3 people that pay attention to not have the opportunity to have the first and second reading. And I get the point that sometimes that it's only 1 or 2 words, but sometimes 1 or 2 words can make a huge difference in what's being said. Seems like the ones we've had lately have been a lot of condensing, which I think is great. Because I think I've said it before, the board policy manuals had gotten to the point where they had to come along with a wagon and a wheels, because if they were actually printed off, they would be like,
Well, you will see eventually in the packet of B policies that dropped, there are suggestions for many, many deletions within that because they are doing exactly that. They are condensing many of those.
I know in the A, there were some we just deleted.
There are going to be some in the B and the C as well.
I will go with whatever everybody else decides.
Thank you, Ms. De Ocampo. And Mrs. Solorio, are there any comments you'd like to add in regards to the policies and what's going to be coming down?
No. Yeah, just thanks I appreciate the effort that's been put into highlighting these items that are going to be coming. So appreciate that.
Thank you.
Dana, thanks for always keeping us up to date. And how many days until you get into back to your own office? Because it's got to be hard doing all this with all you in the same room. Too many distractions. So thank you.
I think, Ms. De Ocampo, I do also appreciate the thoroughness and the accountability that we all should be having for ourselves to make sure that we are reading these policies and that we're knowing the impact that it can have. And so, my urge is just for the board to really, as this does come down, to make the time for us to review and really not just, not read at the first reading and then really read at the second reading, but take time for both readings, because any thoughts or any potential changes or amendments, I think that's helpful for us to hear about that earlier on versus versus when we're about to vote on the second reading. And so if we find that there are a lot of changes that might feel like it's a last minute change, essentially an amendment that might be proposed by a board member, I think it's worth considering an amendment process to iron out, so that way we can all feel like it's not rushed if there is some changes that are added. And it's just and this is just a point that I want to bring up, because there are going to be so many policies that we're going to be seeing, and we might be seeing it for the first time and we might not like something. And so if that is the case, I want us to address that as early as possible, whether it be with the district or Dana or myself, or however you feel is necessary, so that way we can make those changes. Any other comments or thoughts around A3 or B3?
And please know, I've been living with these policies for over 50 years. Seen many changes.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, and I just think I'm for speaking for for the group as a whole. I think if I just want to make sure that we're able to conduct business as we expect. If we're having the second reading and you really wanted to make it to make some changes, that that any board member is present to do so. And I'm not, speaking directly to anybody specific, but knowing that there's a lot of this happening down the road, I want us to be prepared for that.
Appreciate it.
Any other comments? Anyone from the district that wants to add anything in regards to the policies? Hearing none, moving to C, adjournment. We have to, yeah. Do I have a motion that we adjourn the meeting?
I will move that we adjourn the meeting.
Thank you, Ms. De Ocampo. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Solorio. All in favor say aye.
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 Meeting adjourned.